Hi everyone, welcome back to our maths classes. Domain and range are the fundamental concept in mathematics, okay? And particularly in the study of functions. It is highly likely that you will encounter questions related to them. Another topic in a revision booklet. So let's get started. As we know, in a function machine, we have input, which goes into the function machine to get the output. In a function machine, the domain is actually refers to the input and the range is actually refers to the output. Okay, and these are the values that comes out as an output. This means that the domain corresponds to the input variable represents by x, and the range correspondent to output variable represented by v. All right, and where do we find them on our graph? X is on x-axis and y is on y-axis. So y is a range and x is a domain. So it can also be written as f of x is equal to y, where f is the function. So function of x is equals to the y. Okay, so this is the information it's actually giving us. But how am I going to remember that? So always remember d before r and x before y. So this is how I will remember where the domain and range should be mentioned. So the domain of a function refers to set of all possible input values, while the range refers to set of all possible output values. Now let's understand this with the example. Consider f of x is equal to the x. So the domain of this function is all the possible values that x can take, which is any value. Therefore, the domain of all the x's or value of the x's can go into it. Similarly, the range of the function is all possible values of y, which is also any value. Therefore, the range of all the values of y can go into it. Now, on the other hand, if you consider the function f of x is equal to x square, the domain of this function is all possible values that x can take, which is any value. The range, however, is all the y values greater than or equals to 0. This is because the square of any number can't be a negative. So the output of the function will always be non-negative. So a function is a role that assigned to a unique output values of each input values. It represents relationship between two sets of object. Okay, where the objects is the first set are called the domain, and the function of the object in the second set are called the range. Okay, so if we take this example, x plus 4. So here my domain is going to be all the x values which I'm going to input in the function machine, and the function machine is going to give me the output. So suppose if I add 1 into my function machine, which is x plus 1. So my range is going to be, which is my output, is going to be 5. Likewise for 2 is 6, 3 is 7, and 4 is 8. And this is how we get the answer. Now, when dealing with the function, it is important to aware of any constraint that may exist. For instance, as you can see on the screen, that example is f of x is equal to 1 by x minus 2. Can you tell me what can be the domain of it? Any idea? Okay. The domain of this function will be all the real numbers except 2. Why except 2? Because the denominator can't be 0, because we cannot divide 1 by 0. Okay? The range of this function is all the real numbers except 0, because we cannot obtain 0 as an output by plugging in an inappropriate input values. Okay? So let's say choose an example, and I'll take x is equal to 0, y is equal to 1, x is equal to 3, and x is equal to 4. If I start inputting these values in my function machine, now what am I going to get? F of 0 is going to be minus 1 by 2. Likewise for 1, 3, and 4 are the numbers here. And these are my x values, okay, all of them, and they are going to be y values. So hope this is clear to you all what is my domain and what is my range. So in this example means that When you put in a number, let's call it x, the machine will give you back a different number. So, can you tell me what can be the domain here? Okay, to understand that, you need to understand this rule. You need to remember some rules here. And the rule is the number you put in the x has to be greater than or equals to 3. If you try to put in a number that is less than 3, the machine won't work and it won't give you any number back. So, this is also because we cannot take the square root of any negative number. Now, when we talk about the range of a function is all the real numbers greater than or equals to 0, because the square root of any non-negative number is always non-negative. So, here's a table. Okay. For example, we start taking the numbers of the x values and the answer will be like this. Note that we can only use values of x that are greater than or equals to 3. Because if you try to use the value of x that is less than 3, we would end up taking the square root of a negative number, which is not possible with the real numbers. Now, to use this function, you can choose any number of x and then plug it into the formula to find the corresponding output values, which is also called the function values. So, the domain of the function is all the real numbers, okay? And you can choose means any number of x, and the range of the function is all the numbers greater than or equals to 1, which means that the function value can never be less than 1. Similarly, if we choose the value, for example, we say -3 as an x value, and we start substituting that number into a function machine, what answer are we going to get? Is 10. Likewise, this means if I start choosing some other numbers, for example, -2, -1, 0. So this is how I'm going to get the answers. This means that the output value of x is equal to 2 is 5. Okay. And so the values of f of x or for x is going to be this. And all the values which is 5, 2, 1, 2, 5, 10 is going to be my y's value. So here's the recap for the key concept. Okay, domain, range, and why it is important. What are the restriction and accuracy? And remember, you need to practice these points. Okay, otherwise you won't be able to master the topic. Thank you for watching this video on domain and range. By now, you should have a good understanding of what these terms means and why they are important in the study of a function. And be sure to keep the common constraint in what we have discussed in mind while working with the functions. And with a solid understanding of domain and range, you will be well on your way to mastering the concept related to the function. And I hope to see you guys again back to our next video. Till then, bye bye, take care, and hope to see you again.